Is this finally the end of the road for the T-boy, Simon Harris? Well, it's certainly been a big week in politics here in Ireland and in the UK, with the stepping down, the resignation of their Deputy Prime Minister, Angela Rayner, for some financial skullduggery. She was forced to walk the plank, and it's worth noting that politicians in the UK are far more ready, it seems, to walk the plank when that becomes, when their position becomes untenable. Unlike here in Ireland, where even when their positions become absolutely untenable to a ridiculous degree, they seem to hang on and hang on and hang on. Yes, that's to our eternal shame that our political system is like that. But could we be on the very brink of our own Deputy Prime Minister, Tanaiste, the T-boy as some call him, including me, Simon Harris? Could he be about to step down too? Could we be on the brink of another political upheaval here in Ireland, just as has been seen across the water in Britain? Well, some say the signs are there, and I tend to believe them. Myself, personally, watching the mood music, I get a sense that this show is coming to an end, and what a show it has been. Simon Harris has been, certainly in the last few weeks, mired, up to his absolute neck in controversies, and rightfully so. He's made some absolutely catastrophic blunders, and the scoliosis case was really big on the radar, with the sad, tragic passing of Harvey Morrison Sherrod, the young boy, 9 years old. It all could have been prevented had Simon Harris followed through on promises he made, and there's no getting around that. He made the promises, not in private. He made them in public, in the most public way possible, on the national airwaves.
We're going to make sure by the end of this year no child waits longer in this country for a scoliosis procedure than 4 months.
You can't duck out of that, and he's been under extreme pressure from all quarters for the last few weeks. Now, that's just the last and the latest in a litany of quagmires that Simon Harris has been enmeshed in his career. One can't forget the fact that he did pull down a government based on his ineptitude. The government basically collapsed, and he barely squeaked in at that election on, I think, about the 14th count or something. He just about squeaked in, so he was really a lame duck at that point. And for him to somehow like a phoenix from the ashes, become leader of that party in a very short space of time, again shows you just how dysfunctional the Irish political landscape really is. He was never fit for the job. I think most people knew he wasn't. Perhaps he was the only one who didn't know he wasn't, and he just proved to be exactly what people thought he would be, an empty vessel, a man perhaps with grandiose ideas about himself and his abilities, but when the rubber met the road, there was nothing there to back it up, no gravitas at all. Now, in the past week, the whole media landscape has been, full of stories about supposed threats made against Simon Harris and indeed his family. And I want to say immediately from the absolute get-go that if it's true, and I assume it is, if there are, if the Garda reports, etc., and the Garda are looking into it, I assume it's true, that's absolutely abhorrent, abominable. That's absolutely wrong. That should never be the case, and that's absolutely not the way to go about trying to have somebody fess up for their failings, have somebody take accountability for their failings. Threats are not the way forward. It's counterproductive, guys. It's always counterproductive. There are many other ways to come at this, but threatening someone is always wrong. It's the wrong way to do it. So I just want to get that out of the way first. Now, having said that, you're going to have nut jobs. You're going to have wackos out there. This is a big society, and no matter what you do, you'll always have headbangers out there saying things on the heat of the moment and saying things they shouldn't say, saying things they later regret. That's just part and parcel of how life is and how human beings are. It has ever been thus. It's not pleasant, it's not right, but that's how it is. And if you are at the top of politics, if you are the main guy, or you're right up at the top echelons, or even if you're a local councillor and you do daft things, or you do things that the community don't want, the people don't want, or you do harmful things, well, look, you're going to get things being said. Should they be said? No. Look, and certainly threats, if they're even death threats or threats of harm, that's never right. So the news landscape here, I'm talking about the mainstream media, has been awash with these stories. Simon Harris has been threatened, his children have been threatened, his family have been threatened, and all of this shenanigans. And that's been just basically peppered all through the news media. And it is a news landscape. It's a particular thing. And when they want a narrative to be spun, it is spun from one end of the thing to the other. It's just a monolith. They just send out memos from wherever, government offices or whatever press agents they have, and they just tell everybody, get on this story and run with that for the week. Now, here's a tweet from Gavin Riley. He's a political broadcaster, political journalist, Virgin Media, and he tweets out the following. It is very interesting. Check this out. Tanaiste Simon Harris says the threats made to his family in the last week, okay, Gavin, yeah, well, maybe get a copywriter in there, including, and this is a quote from Harris, vile and horrific threats directed at a close family member last night are an attempt to intimidate me out of public office. Harris goes on to say, protecting my family will remain my number one priority. I will be guided by them on the next steps. Yes, on the next steps. Now, put on your conspiracy tinfoil hat there for a second. What might this be? Well, I think myself, personally, this is an off-ramp. Now, I'm not saying there hasn't been threats made. I'm not saying that in the slightest. But what I am saying is that Simon Harris has, in the last few weeks, been under absolutely immense pressure to resign, including from this channel, and he hasn't done so. He should have done so. Anybody with a shred of decency, in my view, would have resigned based on the events that unfolded recently. But he didn't. Instead, he went to an Oasis concert. Again, not the best look. But here now we have a set of events unfolding. Again, as I said, I'm not taking away from the true nature of these events. I don't know to what extent these threats were and who made them. And anybody who's making vile and horrific threats should face the rigours of the law, and I'm sure they will. But here is a potential, with your tinfoil hat on, off-ramp for Simon Harris. Yes, a good reason to resign, for family reasons, for the safety of his family, for the safety of his children. Of course, that's the most laudable thing a man could do, to protect his family. Well, that's the number one rule, the number one duty a man has. Now, yes, that would be quite convenient. Simon Harris is a lame duck now, as far as politics goes. He's just the wheels have come off that project, if they were ever on it. The party want him gone. He's now basically an albatross around their neck. Now, if they could find a nice, easy off-ramp where he can just say, look, I'm doing this for the good, he gets the sympathy vote, everybody claps him on the back, says, listen, sorry about that, you pity you had to go, but you got to do what you got to do for your family. Very convenient, one would say. Now, you can have your own views on that. Maybe he won't resign. I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball. But the mood music for all of this pantomime is, I think he's on the way out. I think this is the way it'll go. And, he's got a good excuse at the right time, and he'll get looked after by the system. No doubt about that. They always do. Like Leo Varadkar sunning himself over on the beaches in USA with a handy gig at Harvard. They get looked after. He'll, as long as he's toed the line and done what he was told, he will be looked after. I think this is the end of the road. Let's check in with the Twitter sphere, see what a few people are saying there. Irish secondary teacher says, he's the most despised man in Ireland. Nobody should be threatening his family members. Just go now. The writing is on the wall. Ochu Ullahur says, is he being thrown out and using this as an excuse? It certainly sounds that way. What else could he be considering, or what's guiding his thoughts beyond that? Joey says, setting up the resignation narrative already. Anything's better than owning the catalogue of failures. Metro Republica says, I think it's normal internet life. If you can't take the heat, you should not be in the game. Getting freaked by a troll or 1,000 trolls is part of the job. Satoru Satu says, if he's telling the truth, then who the F is doing that? Arrest him and throw away the key. If he's lying, then it's a cynical attempt to justify stepping down by playing the victim. Are there police reports that could be obtained under the Freedom of Information Act? Interesting. Yes, one wonders, are there police reports to back up this? I'm sure there is. I wonder, will we ever find out? So what do you think? Is Simon the T-Boy Harris on the way out? Is this the end of the road for the man who would be king? Is the mood music playing the last dance, the last waltz for him to waltz out the door? Well, let me know in the comment section. I think it's going to be an interesting few weeks ahead. But if you think getting rid of the T-Boy is going to in any way change the terrible, despicable direction Ireland is going in at the moment, you may have to think again. We may be getting rid of the T-Boy, but say hello to his replacement, Cruella de Vil.